Alrighty, hello YouTube. Welcome back to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, I am Cryptic Coil. And in today's video, I want to actually make good on a video that I said I was gonna do. So if you saw my review of uh, The New Girl by R.L. Stine, the first book in the Fear Street series, this book tells the story of Corey Brooks, who becomes infatuated with this girl that he sees around at school, and he gets caught up in a tangled web of mystery and horror. And the story didn't exactly end the way Corey wanted it to throughout most of the book. And so towards the end of my video, I said that I had a semi similar experience in high school. I mean, it wasn't the same. I mean, it wouldn't have, you know, had R.L. Stine wrote about my experience, it wouldn't have been quite as good of a story. But I felt like there were some parallels, and so I just told my audience that I would tell that story in another video. So here I am. Um, if you're not interested in my story, though, feel free to check out the review of the R.L. Stine book, The New Girl, though. Anyway, so this is what happened. So, sophomore year, I moved to a different state, and I attended a school where I didn't know anybody. And it was, kind of hard because a lot of the student body, they'd known each other since elementary school, and it was a little tough to meet people. And I didn't, I went to like a very rich high school, but I wasn't rich. And I'm not gonna lie, it was actually the richest public high school in the state. And most of the kids at school drove like really nice and expensive cars. Well, so I didn't really do very well with the ladies at that school. And so one day I see this girl, though, she's walking up and down the hall, and she had this like really like cute but like quirky walk. It was actually kind of sexy in my eyes at the time. And like it's hard to describe, but it was like super interesting to see. And one day I grew the nerve to go talk to her, and so I went and introduced myself or whatever. I don't remember exactly how it happened, but she really seemed to appreciate my attention, and she would like seek me out. Like we would skip class to hang out with each other. We exchanged numbers. But I'm older now. I mean, I'm in my mid to late 30s, and so back then, not everybody had a cell phone. Well, I did. The Nokia brick. I don't know if you remember those, but she didn't have a phone, which I guess should have been a red flag at the time. Uh, but anyway, she, we started talking on the phone all the time, hanging out, skipping class. I was pretty sure that like we were gonna be boyfriend and girlfriend. Things were gonna get like really serious. Uh, and then one day, um, I was on the wrestling team, and one day this dude from the wrestling team and one of her friends approached me in the hallway, and I was like, whoa, how do you guys know each other? Like it was just kind of bizarre being approached by the two of them. And they told me, hey, we need to talk to you. Will you please join us in the cafeteria? And I'm just like, this is like really weird, and I have the like same feeling that like I have in my stomach when my parents tell me they need to talk to me and I know I'm in trouble. So like it's just kind of bizarre. So I join them in the cafeteria. We find a place to sit down, and they tell me, look, this is about I'll call her Anna because that was the name of the girl in the book. Um, we need to talk to you about Anna. And I'm like, okay, uh, like, what do you need to talk to me about? and they said, well, first of all, her name's not Anna. It's like, and I'm making this up. Her name is Jane. And I'm like, huh? Like, that's weird. Like, why would she give me a false name? And they go, oh, there's more. She's not in 10th grade like you. She's a freshman. And she's not 17 like you. She's 14. And she's not rich like the other kids at the school. I mean, I wasn't rich, but even I had a cell phone, and she didn't. So that was kind of weird. And they were like, there's actually a trailer park within walking distance of the school. And the kids who live in this trailer park, if they have a good arm, they can pick up a rock from their front yard and throw it, and the rock can reach the parking lot of the school. And I'm not like, talking trash about that, but I mean, if she were as rich as most of the other kids at that school, she wouldn't have lived in that trailer park. This day and age, the kids that live in that trailer park can't even go to that school because they redrew the boundaries of the district, and they have to go to a high school that's further away. Yeah, it's kind of messed up, but anyway, so I'm just kind of like blown away. I'm like, whoa, so she just like lied to me about her whole identity, and I'm not wanting to believe it, because it's like she's like, super pretty and she likes me, and I've been enjoying her company, and I kind of had my heart invested in the idea that this was going to go somewhere. And they were like, yeah, it gets worse. So she's also not in honors classes like she told me she was. She was in special ed. And they told me that she had this like fascination with ancient Egypt, and she would tell people crazy things like she was a direct descendant of Cleopatra, and that she actually grew up in Egypt, and she's ridden camels before. And then got even like weirder than that. Like she had once stated that she spent 10 years of her life riding a camel across the ocean. Yeah. So then they tell me that, like, she's pretty much been a pathological liar for as long as they remember. Like, and then we had this conversation, and we acknowledged that when we were kids, we would lie and make things up to try to impress people. But, around the ages of like 10, 11, 12, we all outgrew it. Because at that point in time, we would start to be able to detect the social cues that people could tell we were lying, and that we were better off not lying because the risk to reward ratio of being perceived as a liar just wasn't worth it anymore. And then we had continued the conversation, and we talked about how when we got to that age and we grew out of that phase, we were able to identify the kids who still hadn't grown out of that phase. And we talked about other kids who went to the school that still hadn't grown out of that phase. So we were all on the same page. And I mean, like, here I am in my mid to late 30s, and I have a coworker who's like that, who just makes up like crazy and absurd things like that, and they can never put their money where their mouth is. So, I mean, I was a little, bummed out and everything, and, I thought it really sucked. And, I started to like ask, like, why would she act like this? And I knew the answer was that she probably had problems at home, and I could only imagine what those problems may have been, but I knew that I wasn't qualified to help her. And so what I decided to do was go ghost on her. So I didn't have a lot of friends at the school, but I did have some acquaintances, and I used to meet up with them in between passing periods, and I would, you know, hang out with them at lunch or after school. Before everybody went home, like once the final bell rang, people would linger around in the hallways or out in front of the school, and have some last minute like laughs and last minute chit chat. And she would always seek out like my group of acquaintances and find me and join us and everything. And so I kind of ghosted them too. Like the social interaction just wasn't really worth it to me anymore. Well, I and then I would just go straight to the like wrestling room of and wait for practice to start. Well, I ended up dropping out of school like the next school year. I mean, I was there for a couple of months, but I didn't finish the first semester. But I kept in touch with a couple of people. I did have a best friend at that school, and my best friend, he actually did like super well with the ladies. He basically got to be with just about every girl that I found attractive at that school. He usually couldn't hang on to them, but he could initially get with them. He had problems too. He was one of those guys that never outgrew that phase where he would lie to impress people. So it only made sense when he told me that he was seeing Jane. And I was like, I looked at him like, dude, what? And then he tells me, oh no, bro, it's cool. Like, she got a lot hotter this year. She, like, grew her hair longer, dyed it blonde, bought some cooler clothes, waxed her upper lip. Okay, so for the record, I never ever noticed any peach fuzz above her upper lip, and she was obviously an attractive girl, which is why I was attracted to her in the first place, and I have no idea why this guy felt the need to justify her hotness to me, okay? And so I told him, I said, dude, you're fooling around with a girl that we both know to be mentally ill, and you're afraid that I'm judging you based on what she looks like. I mean, I'm just as superficial as anybody else, but come on. And so, he was like, oh yeah, huh? Well, he kept doing it until he eventually dropped out later that year, too. So now we're both dropouts, but, I was 18 and, I joined the workforce. I got a pretty good job at a Fortune 500 company at 18. And one day, I woke up, it was payday. I just so happened to be off that day. I went down to Hastings, and right as I entered on the door of Hastings, there was a flyer, and on the flyer was a photo of Jane, and it said missing, and there was a paragraph under the photo that read, "This is my daughter Jane. I am her mother, and I miss her very much. If anybody knows anything about her whereabouts, please tell her to either come home or please let me know. My number is whatever," and then like 555 1234, whatever the number was, and it said, "I miss my daughter very much." And I mean, I was just like, "Whoa, that's crazy," but I don't keep in touch with her, so I wouldn't be able to do anything. Well, like 6 months later, I was having a lunch with that friend from high school, the one that was messing around with Jane for a while and did better with the chicks than I did, and was a bit of a pathological liar himself. He uh, he and I were having lunch at the mall, and he told me, "Dude, you'll never believe who I saw the other day." And I'm like, "Who?" And he goes, "Remember Jane from high school?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, yeah." And he said, she comes up to me and she's like, "John, is that you?" And then he turns around and sees that it's her, and he goes, "No, I'm John's twin brother, Jeff." And she goes, "Huh? I didn't know that John had a twin brother." And he goes, "That's because I got into or that's because I went to military school." And she goes, "Oh, okay. Well, if you ever see John, tell him that Jane from high school says hi, and that I got kidnapped and taken to California and violated. You know what I mean by that." And then he's like, "Huh?" And then she goes, "Bye." And then she just leaves like nothing. And so he tells me that story, and then I told him, like, dude, I went to Hastings like some months back, and I saw this flyer, and I told him the story. Well, another couple of months goes by, and he had also kept in touch with some people that we went to high school with who were still in high school, and he was hanging out with them one time, and they started to tell him about the like craziest things that Jane had said or done lately, and I guess like what the other kids told him was that what really happened was that Jane ran away from home, and she stayed at a friend's house for a couple of weeks or whatever, and eventually her friends, she stayed with a friend. Well, her friend's parents finally asked her to leave, so she left, but she had nowhere else to go, so she went back home, and being kidnapped and taken to California and getting violated. That was her story. So, yeah, so while I was reading this book, I was definitely feeling some nostalgia. Okay, now I have that was the last time I ever heard anything about Jane. Okay, and I will say that, I did at the time, and I still do. I still have a lot of sympathy for her because I really think that I was right at the time that she had problems at home, and I really hope that she got the help that she needed. I really do. And I don't know. I can only imagine whatever happened to her, but I, I, I hope she had a much better adulthood. That's all I'm going to say. Anyway, I hope you guys felt like that was kind of interesting, and if you read this book, I think that you should be able to understand the reason why I'm telling this story. All right, well, thank you guys. Horns up. Peace out.